Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's J-Man. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm J-Man.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
So when talking about the Parkland, Florida school shooting, a lot of the kids that were there now have taken upon themselves to champion the cause of an assault rifle ban.
Okay.
So, they met with some state legislators. They tried to meet with others who were, turned away from their office. A few of them met with President Trump. So they're trying to get this banned, obviously, after what happened at their school. So they're making a pretty concerted effort. The kids themselves. Normally you would see the parents doing the most outcrying. I mean, they're obviously doing their part. Mm-hmm. But the kids are really putting on this front. They held their walkout. They've inspired similar walkouts across the nation.
There were some here in Minneapolis, weren't there?
Yeah. I forget at what school. But the point is that these kids are actually trying to do something rather than bitch about it. They're trying to inspire some change by the lawmakers because, as one kid said, we're kids. You're adults. You're the ones that can make and change laws.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they're trying to get them to do stuff. Then there was the forum that was had with Marco Rubio and then some Democratic senators from Florida talking about the guns and stuff like that. And there was one father whose daughter was killed, and he kept going round and round with Rubio about what are you going to do to ban these assault rifles. And what the father said is these are weapons of war. Nobody needs to have these. This kid shouldn't have had them. There was all this contact with police and the FBI even, and they didn't do shit. And the school district should have done something. And here's another blip related to the officer that's suspended now. He knew of this kid, and people had reported to him that they thought he was a threat, and he did nothing. And Rubio's like, well, just let me tell you what I've done. And I was on the father's side, but I was also almost in lockstep with Rubio's thinking that, it goes beyond a ban on guns. It goes for greater background checks. It goes
Which I can agree with.
It goes for raising the age of purchase to 21.
It already is, right? Well, for pistols it is. I'm not sure about AR-15 rifles. I know shotguns and bolt action, I think it's 18.
You know this shit and I don't. So.
But I do a permit to purchase, which the AR-15 falls underneath, is 21.
And one of the things he's like, we can go and try, and I'm almost directly trying to quote Rubio, we can try and close every loophole, but what is that going to do? Because they'll just find new ways to get around it. He's like, right now, the assault weapons ban that I did help push through bans over 200 or around 200 weapons. But it allows around 2,000 more. Now, these numbers he could have fudged for the effect of estimating for dramatic effect. But he said the difference being, if you put plastic on the stock, it falls under the ban. But if you take it off, they can get around that ban.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are calling the AR-15 an assault rifle. Well, assault rifle, AR. You know any of this? Before I go into this?
I know that people are
AR-15
assuming.
Doesn't stand for assault rifle.
Right.
It stands for Armalite Rifle Model 15.
Right.
They're not assault rifles. Okay, they're semi-automatic rifles that look tactical, and they barely are that. I mean, you could put a flashlight or a scope on them. But not a single military in this fucking planet uses an AR-15 for its main weapon. Why? Because it's not an assault rifle. It can't do full auto. It doesn't have a large enough round. The smallest round you'll find in any arsenal is 9mm, which is larger than a .223, which is what the AR-15 shoots. You can get them chambered to shoot 5.56 NATO rounds, but they're ungodly expensive.
Now an AK-47 shoots what? 7.62?
7.62 by 39.
Okay.
So that's like a little about the same width, diameter, I would say, as a 5.56, but it's short. It's only, I don't even think it's 2 inches long.
I'm somewhat on board with a lot of what you're saying because I have a rudimentary understanding of different
I don't know how much you understand.
different calibers and different models and shit, because I've had some training in firearms and I read about this shit, but I don't have guns. I don't want to have any, so I don't go looking around at all different models. But one thing that's been brought up is, like you said, there aren't militaries that use the AR-15. Police use the AR-15. Military uses M4s.
M4, some variations of M14s, AK-47, stuff like that. Yeah. They
Now-
use the larger caliber rifles that have full auto capability.
Yeah, I saw somebody mention M16s, and I'm like, dude, that's fucking Vietnam. And
They
those
don't
guns
even
were
make 'em
pieces
anymore.
of shit.
They were garbage.
So all that M16 firing shit you see with Rambo in the movies is clearly Hollywood magic, because they were said to be dysfunctional, inaccurate, poorly
had
made.
They had too light of a round inside of them. So sometimes when they went off, there wasn't enough gas pressure there to push the bolt all the way back.
Mm-hmm.
So what it would do is it wouldn't feed a new bullet, round in there. It would just shoot. The bolt will go back a little bit and go back forward, but the old shell is still in there. And then
So
there
you'd
were an
have
awful lot of
to
parts
clear and eject.
You have to
before
clear and eject. You have to remove the magazine, do a clearing action, put the magazine back in, and hit the bolt release to load a new round. So you're looking at, even a well-trained soldier would be like 2 or 3 seconds.
Right.
Meanwhile, your opponent is shooting at you in full auto.
So hang on.
'Cause-
I got a question on that.
Okay.
You got to fully remove the mag. You can't tap and rack like you would on a jammed handgun?
I don't think you can.
Well, the point being is that much higher caliber, more dangerous weapons are what we give to the military. So if you're going to classify the AR-15 as anything, it falls under its own separate category of urban assault. That's how I would phrase it. Urban assault, urban warfare. The cops are going in and say there's, quote, a war zone. Really, it's a gang-controlled area, and you're not going to send in the fucking National Guard unless a bunch of cops get mowed down. And how frequently do the bad guys really have a goddamn bazooka like they do in the movies and blow up a bunch of squad cars and a bunch of rookie cops that didn't know to fucking bring a bigger arsenal with them?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
Hollywood,
movie bullshit. And
Yeah.
I don't like that these guns keep getting used. And I'm for getting rid of them because they're a weapon of choice, but they're going to find something else to use. Because another thing that I've heard mentioned repeatedly since the Parkland massacre has been there are handguns out there, many that are semi-auto.
Most of them are semi-auto. You do have your revolvers that are single action, which means that in order to pull the trigger to fire a bullet, you have to pull the hammer back manually, pull the trigger, pull the hammer back, trigger. Whereas
Old-fashioned cowboy guns.
old-fashioned cowboy guns, and there's a couple of revolvers that are dual action, so you can pull the trigger, and when you pull the trigger, it pulls the hammer back,
Yeah.
just like most pistols. And even then, I'd have to say, I think 1911 and stuff like that. When you pull the hammer back, because my concealed carry pistol, it's a single action. So in order to fire in the first place, I have to pull the hammer back. But after that, I pull the trigger. As the slide comes back, it pushes the hammer back into firing position. And when the slide goes forward and locks in place with a new round in the chamber, I can pull the trigger again. So that's, so technically they're all semi-auto because one pull the triggers, one bullet. But I mean, if you want to talk about getting rid of semi-fired pistols, well, there's 99% of the pistols on the planet. And guess who's not going to have them anymore? Honest citizens like myself. The only people who are going to have them are fucking criminals. You
Or
want to
the police.
disarm me? Or police. And the same people who sit there and say, we can't have all these guns, are the same people that are against the government, but they want the government to have all the guns? That's what Stalin did. That's what Hitler did.
That don't work.
You can't tell me, okay, we can't keep drugs out of prisons. We can't keep drugs out of schools. We can't do this, we can't do that. But go ahead and disarm yourself, because we promise we can keep guns out of the hands of criminals.
Because you can't.
You can't. You can't keep drugs out of prison. They
That's
tried.
right.
They can't.
That's why there's an illegal arms market. That's why there's a black market for secondary sale of narcotics. The entire economy of some prisons is built upon the sale of narcotics.
There was some guy during Obama's term, he sold, he bought with a false ID like 72 weapons and sold them to people who couldn't get
Jesus Christ.
because they couldn't pass background checks. He sold them to criminals. And Eric Holder had him nailed to the wall with 55 counts of the
illegal sale of a firearm.
55 counts. Plea bargain. Tell us you're guilty, and we'll lower it down to 1 count, and then you'll get probation.
It's fucking bullshit.
That's how fucking Obama dealt with this shit.
Well, hang on. It's not. Don't pin that all on Obama, because I can tell you from working in the criminal justice system, they try to get the job done as cheaply and as quickly as possible. Their last concern is satisfying the public's thirst for justice. They want to look like they're doing a job, but really they have to weigh the pros and cons of giving the harshest sentence with the resources they have to actually pull that off. So when they talk about, for years, people in California get off early because of overcrowding, they're like, you're close enough. Bye. You got to weigh
here's how
that
we can
shit.
make more room in prisons. You want to hear it?
The death penalty for sex offenders and certain murderers and such.
God, get out of my head. Okay, well, there's that. Death penalties for people who murder. You kill somebody, you automatically die. You're a worthless piece of shit. You don't need to be here. Number 2, make lead legal. Get the little plant pushers out of prison. What crime is it to smoke some marijuana?
There's actual, and I've said this to inmates, where some guy saw me have a conversation with somebody like we were old friends. I'm like, oh, hey, so-and-so, how you been? So you're back for your biannual visit? He's like, yeah, fucking PO got me again. I'm like, dirty UA? He's like, yeah. The other guy's like, do you guys know each other? I'm like, only because of here, and let me just tell you right now that I'm pro-weed legalization, and if it wasn't for weed being illegal, me and this gentleman that you just saw me talk to would never have met. And he's like, the guy that I was talking to thought, he's like, you're right.
Exactly. Lots of prison sprays if you get rid of the people who didn't really do anything wrong, the people who do weed, deal weed, dare I say, and just start killing rapists and serial killers and any killer kind, really. Unless it's like vehicular manslaughter and it was an accident, slippery night, somebody's walking on the side of the road, your car loses control, hits somebody. I don't think you deserve the death penalty of that, but you should definitely serve maybe a little bit of time for it or some shit. But, like, if you went and you killed an innocent person on purpose, whether it's a girlfriend that dumped you in a heat of passion, I'm sorry.
Or a random.
Right mind or not, or random, done.
I'm all for executing people that commit violent crimes, quote, for the benefit of a gang.
That
Done
too.
by put you in the ground, and by putting you in the ground, I go, we cremate you and we sprinkle your fucking ashes. That's it.
In a fucking porta potty.
Getting back on topic, yesterday, the Democrats introduced their assault weapons ban 2018. That's just what they're calling it for now.
I saw the headline on that and haven't had a chance to read the article.
I started reading the actual proposal, and it was very dry, but I'm just scrolling through seeing what they're trying to do. And some things they're trying to ban are specifically all models of AK-47s. And then other assault rifles. I mean, it was just model after model. And then I finally saw AR-10, AR-15, and it talked about weapons with a pistol grip, weapons with a front grip.
Which doesn't really have anything to do with how a gun functions.
They're trying to do that. They're trying to push through this legislation that I know is going to fail.
It should. Now, the headline I read, it was saying a blanket banning on all semi-automatic weapons, which includes most pistols, if I'm not mistaken.
It even talked about shotguns. Like, it's just page after page of subtitles and little blurbs about gun models.
So it basically what they're trying to do is take away everybody's guns and pretend the Second Amendment doesn't exist.
Well, no, that's not exactly it, because what they've said is that this is to make it, quote, unlawful for a person to import, sell, manufacture, transfer, or possess, in or affecting interstate or foreign commerce, a semi-automatic assault weapon. However, the ban would not apply to semi-automatic weapons that were lawfully possessed when the measure went into effect. So they're trying to stop the future sale of other weapons. They're not trying to take away your current weapons.
So what they're going to do is boost gun sales like a motherfucker for the next few months.
Probably. Anytime that it seemed Obama wanted to tighten restrictions, there was
Every time there was a threat of it, gun
boom
sales
in
going
gun
up.
law.
And since Trump got in the office, I've been seeing headlines that gun sales are going down because there is no perceived threat to our Second Amendment right, so people aren't buying left and right.
So here it says the White House has already come out against such a ban, which is strongly opposed by the NRA. Obviously. Anyway, Trump has talked mainly about, like what I said, raising the age of purchase to 21.
I can agree with raising the age of purchase. I can agree with longer, stronger background checks. But
Waiting periods?
Well, to get a background check, it's basically a waiting period.
Well, once you get your background check, then you have your permit to purchase, and once you purchase the gun, your 7-day cooling period.
That's what you're proposing.
That's what I'm saying would work a lot better instead of these people that already have a permit to purchase and want to go get a gun that day because they're pissed off and they want to do something.
Well, and that's just and when you get your permit to purchase, even when you go purchase a weapon, they still run a background check because they know when that was issued, things could have changed. My permit to carry also acts as a permit to purchase. It's good for 5 years, but even since I got that, I still get a background check when I go in. But it's really quick. I mean, I think the shortest time I had to wait was like a half hour.
So what are they utilizing to check your background?
I'm not even 100% sure. I guess it's a database that has to do with the FBI or something because it's a federal database they dip into. They look up your social security number, known addresses, all that stuff, driver's license number. That's all on this form that you fill out. Right. You have to fill out every time you purchase a weapon. It's not like such and such, John Q. Public, lives at this address. Oh, okay, everything's already in here. We'll just forward this. No, you have to fill that all out. You have to show them your driver's license and your permit to purchase or permit to carry. It acts as both. And to even get that permit, you have to go through a background check. To get a permit to purchase, you have to get a background check through your police department. That takes anywhere from 4 to 10 business days through your local police department. And then even then, like I said, you go to buy a weapon, they do a background check. Unless you're buying like a bolt-action rifle and a shotgun. Anything other than those types of weapons, you have to have the permit to purchase.
So what if I want to go into Walmart and buy a shotgun like right now?
I think you could, but you still have to fill out the form and they do a background check. You can't buy a gun without filling out that paperwork and submitting to a background check.
You mean I can't just walk into a store and give them money and they give me a gun and I go out and I shoot a bunch of people in the face?
No, you have to go through a background check first.
No way.
Granted, it's from what I've been reading is there's cracks in the system or either that or a cowardly sheriff doesn't want to do shit.
What?
But, I mean, I can understand and agree with stronger and more in-depth background checks, which I guess as you say would produce kind of a waiting period. But you still, even at gun shows, you have to submit this. There's no loophole that says I can go somewhere and buy a gun. The only way it can happen is if you buy a gun from a friend. I don't have anybody I know a lot of people own guns. They're willing to sell me a gun. I have to go to the store to buy it.
Right. Just like we talked about the guy with the 55 federal counts that he was indicted on. That
using a false name and false credentials, and he plea bargained his way out.
God damn it.
As I'm reading more and more of this, now, when they say, I get what they mean when they say pistol grip. Right?
Yeah, it's just like
front grip.
Pistol grip.
Is that like one of those round handles for bracing?
Yeah.
A longer gun?
And it's just some people feel more comfortable holding a weapon like that. I don't think it makes you more accurately. The way I was taught by a buddy of mine who was in the Marines is the closer you hold it to your body and the closer you hold your hands together, the more stable you're going to be. Mm-hmm. So when I'm using my airsoft rifle, I hold at the magwell and I hold where the trigger is. And then I just kind of put my arms into my chest as a platform. And I still am not super accurate.
I just think it's janky that you would have your hands that far apart.
Well, I've seen
with
people
the mag in between them.
I've seen people kind of reach and kind of wrap their hand underneath the shroud, the barrel, and kind of shoot like that. I know people can't see what I'm doing, but that just doing this feels uncomfortable. I like right here, at the magwell. To me, that's the most accurate.
So being mindful of what they're proposing and what you think needs to get done. Should they even be doing this at all?
Trying to ban stuff with pistol grips and foregrips?
Just the legislation they're trying to push with all these different models.
No, banning guns isn't the solution. We need stronger background checks. I guess I'd even be willing to go as far as waiting periods as long as I know that the FBI and the government and whoever's doing the background check actually does a background check. And then if the police get calls on somebody saying he's not stable, he's having issues, and a therapist is like, yeah, I've had him in therapy, and things aren't right here. Strip away his guns. Go to his house with a search warrant, and take his guns away. I'm for that. I mean, if he's a proven mental case, or she, take the guns away from him.
There's one important thing you said there that's a differentiation that I think I want to highlight, is you said if somebody makes a complaint and they talk to a therapist, because anybody can make a complaint about anything these days, and especially if it falls under the Me Too sexual assault harassment realm of things. Everybody's just like, oh my God, the outrage. Let's not wait for facts. Let's not see, what's credible here in this statement. It's you're a victim and oh my God.
Yeah, I imagine that if the government really wanted to, like if that kid in Florida had the sheriff been like, okay, we've gotten a lot of phone calls on this kid. Let's put him on the list of no application denied for purchase until we can find out the facts. And if they, do their job, they could probably do it within a day or two. Talk to a therapist, talk to teachers, whoever, and be like, okay, we need to go get this guy's guns. He's going to be a problem.
Hey, fuck you, buddy!
That's how the system should work, but it doesn't work. And if I saw an interview with that sheriff, like, oh, I've done outstanding service. I work with brave men and women. But it wasn't just one officer that didn't enter. It was 4.
I saw his explanation as to what was going on. It does make sense, and it's not shocking, where he said that there was a victim out on the football field, and he thought he heard gunshots outside, and per their training, they're to wait outside to see, as undercover, they establish that perimeter and see the shooter. That was his justification for not going inside.
Okay, I haven't heard hide nor hair of any of that.
Yeah, he just released that yesterday, too.
Okay.
And, of course, Trump would run in there without any weapons, and he would Superman punch the kid into next year and save the day because
I think a lot of people
he's
think
the
they
almighty
would do that.
Trump. Until he got shot in the dick.
Ouch!
Yeah, well. Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/What Do We Call It? Podcast. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It? Podcast show. For the What Do We Call It? Podcast, I'm J-Man.
And I'm number 1 fan, Tim.
And that's the end.